Hey guys, welcome back to the Full Code. Bit of a late video here. I wasn't actually planning to do a recap of the Tottenham Man United Carabao Cup match, but you know, everybody's seen and heard and listened to all the content, I'm sure now, and you know, made up their own minds about what they saw on Thursday night. But there's quite a lot of stuff that's coming out, so I wanted to look at a couple of bits that to me are particularly pertinent and particularly key, more to do with the things that individuals did and what I'm hopeful for, things that we could tighten up on, and just look at a couple of things that I genuinely don't see people talking enough about. I'll start off with where Tottenham found themselves, and you know, a lot of people talking about the statistics and field tilt, and I think Sky brought up an interesting, I can't remember what it was, pressureometer or something, where there were lines for when Tottenham were on top and, lines for when Man U were on top. I don't really know how they worked all that stuff out. But you could see that Tottenham was scoring goals when we were in the ascendancy, and you could see that Tottenham was scoring goals up to the third goal when we weren't, and when Man United was seemingly on top as well. So I think if we're going to take some positives out of the game, we played a very strong first 11 and Man United didn't. So they went with a very changed side, and that was particularly evident when they did bring on arguably their first team players, even if they're really young players, who made a big difference to the performance and their level. But what I would say is we did exactly what we needed to do, which is that Tottenham team put the Man United team to the sword. We were 3-0 up, and we didn't do it in one, burst where we've really blown them off the park. Actually, we spread that out, and arguably that's exactly what you're looking for. You want a team that can continue to probe and create opportunities and to get into good positions and take the chances, and we did that. Man United did have chances. They did manage to get in there. There were moments where particularly Bruno Fernandes was breaking from midfield. He's actually playing on the left for Man U. It appears under Amorim at the minute as a very tucked in kind of left-sided forward midfielder, which is an interesting wrinkle, and it's something very different. And I was very, very pleased to see Sarr taking responsibility for that a couple of times. He's got the physicality, he's got the legs to get back in there, and he took it on himself to get in and to protect our right hand channel if we had our full back up, or if we were out of position. So that was really good to see, and that may well have been worked on and something that was considered, but actually it wouldn't necessarily be Sarr who you would think of to get into that position. So really pleased to see him taking that upon himself if he did, or really pleased to see him doing it if that was tactically how he was set up, getting in that position. And yes, Fernandes was a bit wasteful with the ball, but by the same token, if you watch back, the chance where he's trying to flip it with the outside of his foot, he's really got one option in the middle, because Højlund was marshalled, and it might have been Eriksen breaking from deep. But they weren't great opportunities, and it would genuinely have to be a magnificent ball, and our defenders would have to be pretty poor for those to be high percentage chances. So good to see that what we were restricting Man U to were some lower percentage opportunities. Now, we did give Eriksen a bit too much space at times, and he had an effort, I think, that was blocked in the middle. He had a shot that was blocked in the middle, and he had a couple that came to him on the edge of the box. So again, that number 6 area is an area we need to improve on, and we need to get better. Seemingly, we're incapable of blocking off cutbacks. Every team wants to get on the outside and then cut the ball back either to the penalty spot or to the edge of the area, because they know there's going to be a pocket of space there. So we do need to get a bit better at doing that. But largely speaking, Tottenham were good value for, our stronger team had really put Man U to the sword. So we find ourselves 3-0 up in the second half. Really good start, really good time to score a goal early in the second half. We go and get the third goal. Really nice goal. Jed Spence with another good ball, and he's really playing out of his skin at the minute, so good for him. And good to see Dom Solanke getting goals. The first goal was a really good finish, and then the second goal timed his run perfectly, even without VAR. If there had been VAR, he timed his run well. The ball was flipped over. He took on the two defenders and he scored a good goal. Yes, you could certainly criticise Martinez, the defending. I wouldn't have been happy with that if that was Tottenham. But it was a really nice finish. And again, that finish where, you know, you're driving inside and then you just reverse it back, or you cut it inside the near post. It's a really difficult thing to stop if that ball gets away, and if it doesn't get blocked by the defender. It's a really difficult one for the goalkeeper, because I've said it a few times recently with Decky's finishes. He has to hedge and he has to start being on his way for the second post, because that's where the expected finish is on a player's favoured foot, or the foot that's bending it that way. So really good goal, 3-0 up, seemingly in control. And then there's been lots of different opinions on, you know, Fraser Forster, and I have been absolutely a huge cheerleader of his and bigged him up recently, and he's thoroughly deserved it. But in this game, he's had an absolute nightmare. And the first goal has then affected him for the remainder of the game. And for me, the biggest disappointment, obviously, those are two goals that should never happen. They're two goals that he absolutely should not put his teammates in the position to find ourselves at 3-2, given the control that we have on the score line. But the biggest disappointment for me is that he was doing this thing that I've talked about again in the past, is this kind of faux calm and confidence. You do need to bring a sense of calm, and you do need to bring a sense of composure to a situation, but that doesn't mean you need to be slow. So there's a big difference between that and what he was doing. And normally he's been very good at it. What I've really appreciated about Forster coming in is, apart from making some brilliant saves, has been the calmness, putting his foot on the ball, and his distribution has been very good. Now, I watched this particular game with a group of friends and you know, fans of different teams, including Man United fans, and one of my friends who hasn't obviously watched Tottenham beyond Match of the Day or the game against his own team, was absolutely shocked that I was backing Forster and saying how well he's played recently. He couldn't believe it. He thought he was an awful goalkeeper, certainly with his feet, certainly his distribution. And I said to him, no, he's been brilliant. And I would argue he's a calmer influence distributing with his feet than Vicario has been this season. And he couldn't believe what I was saying. Obviously, on the evidence of what happened in that second half, he's not going to believe me. But we've done this as Tottenham Hotspur. We have played lesser teams in cup competitions. We've gone away in Europe to a team that Tottenham's expected to beat, and we've done this faux confidence thing. And there is a complete difference between trying to look calm and composed, and therefore, you know, being in control of a game, and doing the things you need to do to actually be calm and composed. And then the next level onto that is obviously giving it 100%. You know, you're in the Champions League, you're in the Champions League final. You're not so worried about how you look and whether you look composed. You want to win that game with every fibre of your being, and so does everybody else. So everybody gives 100%. So it's a very different thing, and I really, really, really don't like when players try to do the faux confidence thing. You can be competent, just do the things you need to do them properly, execute is the word, and then the game will take care of itself, and then you can be calm and composed, and there can be moments where you can have that clear and calm head rather than going at 100 miles an hour. Now, for me, what Forster's done is he's been given a ball across his line, and he's very, very close to his line. He's acutely aware of that, and he's got it wrong. He's tried to come across as calm, but he's not looked, and he's played that ball in front of Dragushin. I don't think he's sold him short, actually. I think he's played it in front of Dragushin, and therefore it's favoured, I think, Fernandes, who's coming in to get on that ball and to play it across. He's unlucky, Forster. He gets a bit of the ball that Fernandes puts across, but Suma gets a bit of it, doesn't manage to get it away, and obviously they poke it in from a couple of yards. So it's a really, really poor goal to concede, but the key being, don't do this faux confidence thing. Do the competent thing. Execute in that moment. Yes, you are in a situation that you're not happy with. You're in a situation where you're super uncomfortable, but execute at that moment and we'll be fine. All right. And then the game goes on, and then he compounds on that by, he's very clearly giving himself the internal self-talk about being calm and being composed and not letting it get to him, which in effect means it has gotten to him. And he does again the faux calm thing where he's, relaxed and takes his time. And he didn't have that amount of time, and the ball comes across, he takes a poor touch. So instead of that touch being nice and clean and crisp and the ball being ready to go, or being diagonally in front of him to his right or square to his right so that he's got that extra half yard on Diallo, who's lightning quick, he doesn't, slightly slides off his instep, and it gives the striker the advantage because he's coming in, with everything he's got, slides in. Forster then tries to hoof it away, and it ends up in the roof of the net. One of those things. It's another really, really poor mistake. And again, to me, the root of it is not, should he have had the ball back? Should they have played that free kick backwards? All of those things you could argue. Postecoglou doesn't want them playing backwards, so they should have taken a quick free kick and played forwards. Fine. It doesn't really matter. When the ball ends up in that situation, it ends up with you. You need to do the right things. It doesn't matter whether or not it should have ended up with you. You need to then do the right things in that moment, and he didn't. So again, the faux confidence thing, and it leads to the second mistake. Now, the second mistake, obviously, that's it. That's head loss. But more disappointing than that is head loss across the team. Man U had made their 3 subs. They looked a lot better, but until we made those 2 mistakes, really, there wasn't a great deal to worry about. We hadn't asked Man U to actually do anything, and at that point, we are really chasing the game. And as you might expect, the away fans wake up and are very boisterous, and we're looking shaky. In that period of time, it was affecting literally everybody. I thought Bissouma deserves a lot of credit, particularly for his first half performance. He wasn't great across the 90, but he was really, really good in the first half. And there were plenty of occasions where he was doing number 6 things. He was just getting in and nipping ahead of players, getting his foot to the ball, getting studs on it, interfering, getting pokes in to stop Man United players being able to effectively get in or pass round or move the ball forward with any fluency. He was doing really, really well, but you saw a moment in the second half when the ball came across just inside the 6-yard box, and I have no idea what he's doing there. He is in between taking a touch and clearing the ball, and he gets lucky. He pops it just the other side of the post. He could easily have popped it inside the near post, when you could argue that in that situation you are perfectly entitled to stick your side foot behind that and whip it all the way out for a throw on back the way it's come from. So again, it was contagious and it affected everybody, and we were then seemingly unable to play. So the key for me is none of the other conversations. It's executing in the key moment, particularly experienced player who's been a winner. He's won things, and he should have done better in that moment. He knows that himself, and that third moment where a shot, okay, it's coming in with a bit of pace and maybe a bit of movement, but his head has gone, and so all he really cares about is getting that ball as far away as possible. And in fairness, he does. He launches it. He gets a good side foot behind it and sends it miles away. So that's if he'd have done that the first 2 times, would have been okay, but that's definitely not the system. That's not what he's asked to do. That's not what the goalkeeper's asked to do. And I've got no issue. That's the system. That's the way he's been told to play. You just execute better. That's all it is. I'm concerned that he had that much of a head loss. And again, a little bit of lack of leadership. So out there, he's made 2 individual errors, but we then seemingly couldn't get a grip on the game. And, there was no one on that pitch that was getting a grip on that game. We managed to get the goal, the apparently so-called Olympico, from Son, straight in from a corner. And they definitely were trying to loop corners in on Buendia, which he himself looked pretty shaky. as you can see for the Solanke first goal. And that's absolutely fine. If that's been identified, stick the ball on top of him. He doesn't look like he's confident. I would have said do the same to Onana, to be fair. And it flies in, and there's definitely no foul. So yeah, we just about get away with it. But obviously you go 4-2 up, and again you're thinking, well, this is probably more by luck than by judgment. But what can we do now, and how are we going to respond? The only way you expect Spurs to respond, which is to concede another goal and to make it super full of anxiety. And a really poor goal. Again, Porro's done this a couple of times now this season. He's misjudged it. He's come in under the ball, and he puts the players behind him in a difficult position. I've heard lots of people criticising Bissouma, and it looks like Bissouma's on the wrong side and nods the ball. It's not. It's Johnny Evans that gets contact. But you've got a player come flying across in front of you, and okay, you could say you shouldn't expect him to get it. But once he's up, you lose the flight of the ball. So everybody that's in there with Johnny Evans loses the flight of the ball, and they will not see it until, that split second when it comes over his head, and then it really is travelling fast and heading downwards. And it's just fortune. If it had been, 6 inches to our right, Bissouma would have got his head on it. But it didn't. It fell plumb on Johnny Evans, who just reacts instinctively. And it's a difficult one. It's lightning fast and kind of hits Forster on the shoulder and goes in. Would have been a difficult save. It's one of those that, most goalkeepers, it's either completely instinctive or it just hits them. And then people talk about what a brilliant save. So again, not great. And these are the kind of things that, all right, we got away with it because we scored the 4th goal, but we really need to tighten up on these because that was a fairly strong team. Arguably, we've got plenty of players out, plenty to come back, and that could have positive effects in terms of the gaps between the semis for Liverpool, where we've got one game early Jan, one game early Feb, and we could, in theory, have loads of players returning in between those two, which could work in our favour. We've obviously got players who are going to be suspended for the first leg by picking up yellow cards, which is very, very frustrating, picking up yellow cards in this game. So, what we're going to have to look to do is get a result and get a decent result in the home leg for us to have any chance of going through. And if you can do that with the team that will be available at the time and with the suspensions and the injuries, if you can do that and get a positive result, and then you do get returning players from injury and suspension for the second leg, who knows? You never know what could happen. Maybe it's, the stars align and our name's written on the cup this year, or we crash out because Liverpool are a great team and they're playing very well and they're very stable. We don't really know because we don't know which Tottenham is going to turn up. But what I really want to see is a lot less of the individual errors. Individuals across the team now, it's just right, new game, new week, it's my turn to make a load of errors and to cost us goals. We need to snuff that out. And it's not coming from young players, it's not coming from inexperienced players making mistakes, it's coming from very well-established individuals who should know better. So tighten that up. Start to show a bit of leadership, and I felt like Maddison was doing that in the previous game with his performance. But again, I need to see more of it. I need to see dominating and taking control of games, and that's the only way that we're going to pick up positive results and do anything in the cups. So we managed to do it. We managed to get across the line. I just wanted to get my 2 penneth worth in because the way I saw it is not anything that I've seen. But then again, I've not been massively on social media. So there you go. That's my analysis of it and what I want to see going forward. So tough game, Liverpool this weekend. We'll get a good look at their stronger side, and we'll be in a really tough situation with a lot of our players having played a lot of football. But it doesn't matter. Still, it's 11 against 11. And if you come out there and you do the right things and get a bit of luck, this Tottenham team is capable of beating any team in the Premier League. And we've pretty much shown that. So could we do it again? Could we do it against Liverpool? Let's see this weekend. Anyway, have a great weekend, everyone, and come on Tottenham.